Today, I'm learning a new sharpening system, and I'm bringing you with me. Stay tuned. Hi guys, so for those of you that don't know, my name is Michael and I am the woodworker for MK Designs. I'm going to try and do this with the fan running, but if it turns out to be too noisy, then next time we'll just have to turn it off. I mean, it gets incredibly hot under here, especially when the sun's shining. Without it, I'm working on getting an evaporative cooler to go behind the fan, so I might actually be able to work out here in the middle of the day, or in the heat of the day anyway. But at any rate, yeah, I'm learning a new sharpening system. In all honesty, I have never actually sharpened a tool in my life. And there's a lot of reasons for that. One being, I lost everything, and every time I've ever had to sharpen a tool, I wound up having to buy a new one. And my dad used to sharpen tools with a grinder and some other things, but I never really learned how from him. So yeah, so this is going to be my first time sharpening a tool at all, because honestly I've never had to. And yeah, I'm going to bring you guys along with me. So let me get the camera turned around and I'll show you what we're working with. Okay, so this is what I got. I ordered the fine sharpening system, the fine sharpening system from Rockler, and this is what all it comes with. I've already opened it, so it comes with a honing guide, which from my understanding these are okay, but unless you have some sort of jig to help you set your angle, you have a hard time setting the angle on your bevel. And yeah, so that's I'll explain to you why I'm not going to use this in a minute. Well, another reason why I'm not going to use this here in a minute. Comes with these little bumpers to put on the bottom of your glass, and it comes with 800, 1200, 1500, and 2000 grit self-adhesive wet dry sandpaper, and of course the glass. And from there, this is the other reason I'm not going to use this honing guide, is I went out and I bought the Mark II standard honing guide from Veritas, and from all the research that I did, this is actually one of the best honing guides on the market. It's really simple to put together and set up. You got these little indicators for your angles, this little piece to help you set your depth to get your angles right, micro bevel adjustment, yeah, and spray adhesive for the non-self-adhesive wet dry sandpaper that I have. So yeah, like I said, the lowest grit on that is 800. Of course, my chisels. Now these are my normal chisels that I use. They're, again, not an expensive set. I don't have Japanese chisels or anything like that. These work. I want a set of Japanese chisels at some point, but right now these will do. These do the job really well. And then I have this one. This is the first chisel I bought when I got back into woodworking, and I built the arbor for our wedding, and I call it my beater chisel, but it's pretty well beat up, if you can see that. So yeah, this is the first one I'm going to sharpen, just to see how well the system actually works. I don't expect it to get this one perfectly sharp, because I probably actually need a grinder or something on it, but if it can at least get it to where I can continue to use it as a beater chisel, I'm good. Whereas these chisels, they've hardly been used at all. I mean, they've been used a little bit, obviously. They don't have a micro bevel on them. That's one thing that I want, and I want to make sure the flats are all back, and that's one reason why I'm doing this. And it'll make sense here in a minute why I have this, but I have a shower liner. So, oh, I also have a spray bottle of water and soap. Maybe that'll give you a hint as to why I have this. And I've got a piece of MDF and a little piece of the hardest wood I have at the moment, which is Purple Heart, to test the sharpness after I'm done sharpening these things. So yeah, let's get to it. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to spread the shower liner out. Now, if you haven't guessed by now, the reason I got shower liner is because I'm using, you have to have some sort of lubricant when honing chisels and plane blades and things of that nature. So I'm using, well, the one thing everyone recommended was just a little bit of soapy water with the sandpaper. You can use oil, but I'm just using a little bit of soapy water. So in order to help protect my table from the water, I'm using the shower liner. So I'm just going to spread this out the best way I can. Get it as flat as possible so that it doesn't affect my plate. Keep my microphone from falling off if I can. Cover up my electrical over here. There, that should be good. And then I'm just going to take these pieces of 2x4 and lay them out here just in case the wind whips up to keep it from carrying off the liner, along with my glass and my chisels and everything else. Get this cable out of here. Now off camera I went ahead and sprayed a piece of 400 grit wet dry sandpaper and attached it to this piece of MDF, and that's going to be my first step on most of these. I'm going to try and keep my mic on during this, but if it starts to get a little too messy or anything like that, I'll just take it off and just switch over to doing voiceover, because honestly I would rather do the voiceover than run the risk of having my mic short out from the water. So the next thing I need to do is set up the glass. That's what the little bumpers are for. Now, from what I understand, you don't have to have the glass, and you definitely don't have to order the system from Rockler. I did because it was actually the cheaper option for me. I went to look for a piece of marble tile and things like that, and this was actually the cheaper route, plus it came with the sandpaper and a honing guide, but I'm not going to use it. But yeah, you can use a piece of marble, just anything that you know is going to be perfectly flat. And glass was one of the things that were highly recommended to use for this. So that's what I went with. Trash. Okay. Pull your bumpers out. Now I know I want at least one in each corner, but it came with several, so I'm probably going to put more than that. And where I put the rest will be determined where I put my sandpaper. So, because I have 4 different grits, I think I'm gonna wind up cutting these in half. There's absolutely no reason to put the whole sheet on here and then flip it over and that nature. I can just cut each piece in half and put 4 on one side. So let me go get my scissors and we'll do that. Alright. Got the scissors. Get this open. Here's the 800. I want to cut it in half. So I'm just going to fold it in half and then cut it. Just like that. And then take one of the halves, pull the backing off, you can get it started. I think I'm going to go lowest to highest, like that. I'll put this one here. Make sure there's no bubbles. And I'm going to do the rest of these off camera because you don't want to sit here and watch me do this part. Be right back. Okay, so I got them all on here, and we got 800, 1200, 1500, and 2000. And I'm sure, and I put a bumper I went ahead and put a bumper at the corner of each one of them. And it's probably overkill, but better safe than sorry, I guess, right? Now I'm sure a lot of you are asking, well, why don't you just use the regular wet drop sandpaper you have and spray the adhesive on it and then put it down? Well, from my research and from my understanding, that spray adhesive over time will build up and it's hard to get it off, and it's hard to get everything back perfectly flat, whereas these self-adhesive ones, they don't leave a residue. You can just pull them off and toss them and replace them. That's my understanding. We're going to find out. So, alright, so the first one I want to work on is my beater chisel. And I'm going to set this off to the side for now because I need the 400 grit first. And I need my spray bottle. Like that. Get this. And yes, I know how MDF reacts with water. Not real concerned about it. So, everything that I've read, everything I've heard, everything everyone said, you want to start with the back of the chisel first. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start with the back, and then I'll switch over to the front, and that's when I need my honing guide. So spray this down a little bit, and I have to pull it off the table. Can you still see? Okay. And then just back and forth. Of course, would help clamp it down, I guess. It makes a slurry, but it's already starting to make a difference. Let's see if I can do this a different way. Elbow, arm. Nope. I'm gonna have to clamp it down. Be right back. Alright, I got it clamped down. Should make it easier. It's probably gonna take a bit for this one. Let me give it a few strokes here. So yeah, you can already start to see the difference. See the shiny parts around the edges? That tells me that the back of it is not flat at all. So I'm gonna get this flat on the off camera, and then I'll come back and we'll work on the bevel. Okay, so this thing is in worse shape than I thought. That's after about 10 minutes on the 400 grit. I don't have anything lower in the wet dry, but I do have this Diablo 220 grit, so I'm gonna give it a few shots on this and then go back to the 400 and see if it makes any kind of a difference. Okay, so the 220 grit didn't do too much, but I stepped down to 150, then 100, and went all the way to 60, and I used a black marker to mark it just to make sure, And after about 30 seconds on the 60 grit, you can see it's clean now. So I'm going to step it up 100, 150, 220, 400, and then I'm going to step through the rest of them and see where we're at. Okay, so I've got the 100 grit on here, and this is another trick that I picked up from a couple of different people, including the Wood Whisperer, Mark Spagnolo. Just mark with the marker, belt tip marker, magic marker, whatever you want to call it. And if you remember, right in here was where the trouble area was. So let's see what we got. I know it's not wet, dry paper, but works better with the water, believe it or not. Okay, so like I said in the beginning of this, I'm learning this. At the same time, I'm showing all this to you. And I'll admit, sometimes I'm a bit of a perfectionist. So I stopped because this thing just was not getting flat. So I stopped and I checked I watched Paul Sellers' video, and according to him, from about here, about a 1/4 inch in or so, to the tip, is all you're concerned about on the back. That's it. The rest of this can be, as long as it's concave and not bellied out, then you're good. If you don't know who Paul Sellers is, look him up. He works a lot with hand tools and things like that, and I've actually learned a lot about chisels and stuff like that from him. He actually buys cheaper chisels than these DeWalt ones and does amazing work. So yeah, check him out. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna take this on the 220 grit, then I'm gonna go to the 400 and then move on up, and then I'll work on the bevel. Okay, so as it turns out, the shower liner isn't such a good idea. My glass plate was slipping around on it, and I don't want to clamp it down, so I'm just gonna take a chance of damaging my table here a little bit, but I think it'll be all right. But now I am going to switch to the 800 grit. I remember which one it is, 1500, 2000, so that's the 1200. All right, so this is the 800. And I'm gonna work on the back a little more, and then we'll flip it over and start on the bevel. So one thing Paul Sellers was saying was to work it this way. Now, Paul Sellers also uses diamond plates and a leather strop at the end. And I don't have any of that. But I've seen a lot of guys, this is all they use, and they get a good sharp chisel. And so now I got that. I'm gonna move up to my 1200. Flip it around and hit 1500 and then the 2000. Yeah, I'm already seeing my reflection in it. don't know if you can see that or not, but you can see the house behind me in that thing, behind the camera in that thing. So yeah, this is working pretty good, I think. We're gonna hit it with 2,000 and then we'll work on the bevel. Okay, that should do it. See that? So now I'm going to get set up. We're going to work on the bevel. So now then, from what I understand, the way this thing works is make sure you have the camber at 12 o'clock. There's a little notch in it, so up. And works best on 2 for ordinary chisels. It even says on here, 1, the red is for high angles, 2 is for standard angles, the yellow, and 3 is for back bevels. I'm not putting a back bevel on my chisels. I don't need it. So I'm just going to do a standard angle, and I think I'm going to go 30 degrees. So I've got it set here for 30 degrees. Then I set this over here at 1 inch. I know you probably can't see that, but it's got 1 and a few notches on there to indicate size. That's the size of your chisel. And so the next thing I do is I put it in with the back up. It has to be open enough for the chisel to actually fit. This is a rather thick chisel. So if I don't take it all the way apart, I'm trying to get it in there. Okay, I think I got it in there. Yeah. And you just put the edge flush up against this side and you push until you hit the stop. And then they recommend alternating, tightening it up. That way you don't wind up with your chisel going askew one way or the other when you're sharpening. Just get it in there nice and tight. And then you just slide this piece off and you're good to go. And I don't know if I can do this with my clamps here or not, but I'm pretty sure I need to use the 220 on this first. So I may have to go get a bigger piece. Let me see if I can spread these out a little bit and still hold it in place. I don't want to glue it down because it's not wet or dry, and as soon as I get some wet or dry, then I'll replace this with it. So is this going to give me enough room? Yeah, I should be able to make that works one way or another. I'm going to have to go away from me though. So we're just going to start. Yeah, this, I'm watching the bevel, the end of this, and it's it's actually cleaning it up. I am thoroughly impressed. I don't know if you can see that or not, but if you remember those chips in it from the end, they're still there, but they're almost gone. And you can see it starting to polish the bevel up a little bit right there. So I'm gonna keep going on the 220 for a bit, and then when I come back, I'll be on the 400. We'll move up. Okay, so since this chisel's seen better days, I went ahead and I stepped down to 60 grit on the bevel, and I wouldn't put the marker on it That's all we're really concerned about. From everything I've researched and whatnot, you don't have to have this entire area the same, because over time you're going to be sharpening it a little more and it's going to move further and further back. So that's all I'm concerned about right now. So that's at 60 grit, and now I'm going to step up like I did before with the back to 100, 150, 220, 400, 800, 1200, 1500, and 2000. So I decided to go ahead and double it up, so I'm going to 150. I don't have 120, but I'm going to use the 150. And we'll get the marker. Mark it. And like I said before, the marker is a good way to check your progress. So that's what it looks like right this second. Let's see what happens. That's where it's at after that short of time. So a little bit more and I can move up, and then once I get all the way through the grits I can add my micro bevel. And yeah, one other thing, if you've never done this before, as you're doing this you'll start to feel a little burr. As you're doing the back you'll feel it on the front, but as you're doing the bevel you'll start to feel the burr back here. You take care of that at the end, don't worry about it. It's actually a good thing. That's what you're looking for. You want that. So let me finish this up on the 150 and then we'll move up to the 220. So that's after 400. And you can see it starting to take shape there. And the one thing I failed to mention is you see the angle on this particular chisel. That's why it's a little askew up here, because of that. On the smaller ones, the flatter ones, they're flat, so it'll all come out even. But yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a trip on that one. So let me do the next 4 and show you where we're at. Okay, so I just finished with the 2000 grit. Let me pull it out of here because I don't need it in this anymore. And that's where we're at. Y'all remember what this thing looked like at the beginning, right? I didn't take it to a grinding stone, nothing. And those chips are gone. I'm impressed. Now, there is a burr on the back. Not much of one, but there is one. And the way you take care of that is on your highest grit. You just take it. Let me get it where the chisel's actually off the table because it gets in the way. And pull. Just polish that a little bit, and it's gone. Now, a lot of guys will tell you that you need to use a strop and rubbing compound and stuff like that. This chisel was dull like you would not believe when we started. And Purple Heart, not bad for a beater chisel, huh? So, yeah. I'm impressed. So, yeah, I'm going to take care of the other 4 chisels the same way. And that's it. Okay, so the last thing I want to do before I take off the burr on these is I want to rotate this to the 6 o'clock position. The little notch is going down. That's going to give me my micro bevel. I'm only going to do that on my 2000 grit. So just take a few backward strokes, because at this angle it will dig into the paper. And you can barely see it, but it's just a slight little different angle, like 1 degree different on the tip. And that's micro bevel. Okay, so I hope you all don't mind. My hair looks like crap because it's hot and I've been sweating, and yeah, I just don't like having my hat on during these things. So yeah. Anyway, like I said, that was the first time I've ever sharpened any tool, and it quite honestly impressed me. I mean, everybody was giving it raves, and some people were saying it's the best sharpening system there is. I don't know. Like I said, I've never sharpened anything before, so it works. You saw the results. I mean, it took this old beater chisel and turned it into one I could actually use for fine woodworking if I wanted to. This one will not be used for that, just so you know. That's what I've got those others for. This one is going to continue to be my beater chisel. I just wanted to use it because it's the most beat up one I had, and I wanted to see how good of a job it did on it. So, if you like the video, give me a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, welcome, first of all. Secondly, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoy the rest of my videos. Go over and check some of them out, and be sure and hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell next to it so you get notified whenever I put out new videos. And yeah, until next time, guys, happy creating.